All right, time for my next comedy story. So this story is from when I drove a septic truck. I drove a septic truck about 8 years, and I had a lot of crazy, wild stories happen during that time. A lot of toilet humor, a lot of funny stuff and experiences that happened during that, you know, because you just always get into terrible situations, and, you know, as a man, you got to be tough and work through it and whatever, you know. So this is one of those times. So we went to a job, and the problem was their septic system wasn't working right. And there's septic systems work different ways. Sometimes there's a lateral field, you know, with a big 4-inch pipe that goes out to a drain field, and other times there's entire systems with separate tanks and filters that go to like a LPP field, low pressure system, that have pumps and pressurize it out into the ground. So we showed up to a system. This was an actual system. It wasn't just a normal tank. There were multiple tanks and filters and stuff like that. So the filter tank that is supposed to disperse down into another tank, and then the way it all works, there's just, like I said, there's separate tanks, and it goes through this filter tank before it goes out and is dispersed out into the ground. Some of these systems, a lot of these systems are designed that when the water comes out, it is clean enough to drink, per se. So that's the way your condos and cities and a lot of stuff work. It just, your water, every gallon you flush goes right into the rivers. It just is processed and goes out, and they say it's clean enough to drink. So this wasn't quite one of those systems, but it was cleaner water that I was dealing with. It wasn't perfectly clean, but it was much, much cleaner. So the way this system worked, there was a filter tank up on a hill, and it filtered down, gravity fed down below. There was no pump or no nothing, and this tank was all full of these big foam filters and stuff, and it's never supposed to fill up and back up. Well, what happened is there was a 1-inch line that came down the hill that went to the other tank, and that line had a root, because when roots grow in the ground and stuff, I mean, you'll bury your lines and they'll be fine, but a couple years later, you know, the tree next to it, the roots will grow up, and as the roots grow, it'll crack your lines and break your lines and move them and stuff. So that's basically what had happened on this. A root came up and had come up and pinched the line to where water couldn't get through no more. So it was kind of an obvious fix, you know. We found out what happened, found out what was going on. So you got this tank up on the hill that we couldn't pump out because it was full of this foam and these filters. And so we're trying to figure out, like, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix this pipe? Because the second that we cut the pipe to fix it, all that water in that tank is going to come through that line and come down right at us. And we're like, well, we can either try and take all the foam out, or there was really no way to do it other than just cut the pipe and do it and just let it leak and then put it back together real quick. And that was my plan. I had my buddy working with me, and we'd come up with that was the best plan, and I was the lucky one to be able to do it. So the plan was, you know, was to get the pieces, get the section that we were going to fix, and have it all ready. You know, cut the pipe, cut it out, and then just put it in real quick. Do it all real quick, you know. And we had this plan for everything, and it was a good plan, you know. In theory, it seemed like it would check out great. And so what I do is I go and I cut the pipe and I get everything, you know, and I'm doing it real fast, and I cut it and I go and I put it all back together, and the water's coming out, and I'm trying to do it real quick, and it's going perfect. And right when I go to seal it back together like this, there's a pipe like this and a pipe like this, and when I go like that, the pressure of the other pipe and hits the other pipe, and when it does, it all just splashes right in my face and completely gets my face. I mean, covers me. I'm like, ah! And I put it together and I get it together real quick. And I'm like, oh, and it only happened for a second. I mean, it wasn't like I sat there and took a bath in it or anything. I mean, it was just a split second to where I put the pieces together, pipe together, and put them in like that. But when I did, the pipes just hit perfect and just right in my face. I'm like, oh man, that was terrible. Now keep in mind, this was cleaner water. It wasn't perfectly clean, but it was pretty clean. I mean, it was better than it could have been, for darn sure. It was cleanish water, cleanish. And so yeah, that was a bad part of my day. So that definitely was not the highlight of my day. So I just kind of had to deal with what I had going on, and I had to hurry up and finish the job because I was cutting real close on time. I was trying to get my CDL, and I had to go take a test at the DMV, or at the yeah, basically the DMV to get my CDL, and I'd been studying for it, and I only had time. I mean, I was working real hard, and I just had it all planned out, and I needed to hurry up and get from this job and go straight to the DMV and take this test to get my CDL. And so I go, we get the job done, we get everything fixed. I'm like, man, I got to get out of here. And I drove and hurried up and got to the DMV, and I show up at the DMV, and I go in there, and you go to take your test, you know, and when you take your written test, or at the DMV, there's where they do the written test, and you know, you can talk to the people that do that, and then you take the driving test, and you can get a state trooper in the car with you, and you go around and they watch you and make sure you don't break any laws and do everything right. And so I walk in there, and there's the lady sitting at the deal handing out the tests and stuff, and there's 3 state troopers sitting next to her, and I walk up, and she goes, "How's your day going, sir? How are you doing today?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm doing pretty good. I'm completely shit-faced right now, but besides that, I'm doing pretty good." And I just said it straight-faced, 100%, no, nothing. I'm just like, "Yep, I'm completely shit-faced, but besides that, my day's pretty good." And she looks at me kind of funny. She's like, "Huh?" She hands me the test. She's like, she looks over at like the state troopers, like, "Did you hear that guy? Did you hear what that guy?" Casually, nothing. I just take the test. I'm like, "Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day." And I sit down, and I start taking the test, and I'm sitting there, and I'm taking the test, and and here, they're all whispering, and they're all talking up over there, and sure enough, you see them get up, and they come over, and they walk around, and they all hover around me, and they're like, sir, what did you say when you walked in?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I mean, she asked me how my day was going, and I said, I'm completely shit-faced right now, but besides that, it's going good." And they were like, "Would you care to explain and elaborate on that?" And I was like, well, sure, I'll go ahead and tell you. And I went ahead, and I mean, you could hear a pin drop in that place when this happened. I mean, the entire place was silent, and it was a room full of people. Everybody was in there taking their test, all quiet, sitting down, but you could cut the tension with a knife. I mean, it was just, everybody was like, "Oh my goodness." So then I start to tell them, and I'm like, "Yeah, I was doing a septic job, and I went to put 2 pieces of pipe together and said," and smashed it in my face, and "Oh yeah, that's why I'm completely shit-faced." And the entire room, everybody in there taking the test, died laughing. Died. They're all hysterically laughing. Everybody's laughing except for 3 people. The 3 state troopers that were there didn't laugh at all. They did not crack a smile. They didn't laugh at all. They did not think it was funny, but I thought it was hilarious. And I think a lot of the other people did too. But yeah, I guess that's just my my driver's test story for my CDL. I went to take it completely shit-faced, and it was just quite the experience. But yeah, and it wasn't like, you know, shit-faced, but it was cleanish water. But the way I worded it, it just it was pretty funny, and I was just messing with people. I'm kind of like that. I'll mess with you, and you won't always know it, you know. So yeah, I just figured I'd share another funny story with you guys, and keep going on. So yeah, I appreciate you guys keeping up. I'm going to be releasing funny stories like this once a week. Try and stay posted. Appreciate y'all.